So I was reminiscing. I think I don't know if that's the word. I was talking with a friend, and the question of Second Samuel chapter 7 came up. Second Samuel chapter 7 is the chapter where David got up one morning and decided that he wanted to build a temple for God. Yeah, it was David, not Solomon. But let's get it. Some of us know the story. David wakes up one morning and is like, how can I be living in a house and God is living in a tent? He was referring, of course, to. He was referring, of course, to. He was referring, of course, to the Ark of the Covenant, which it had a tent. If I recall correctly, the tent was in a place called Shiloh, and you know, the people went there like once a year for their penance. All those sacrifices that they used to make. The high priest, the blood, and all of that. But it was like, but how come I can be in a house and God is in a tent? So he calls the prophet Nathan, which some people have argued was his son. I don't think so. There's no way David, who was about 40, 50 at the time, and didn't start having kids until perhaps his 30s, would have a son who is well, maybe it's possible, I don't know. I don't think it was his son, though. I think it was just somebody else who's called Nathan. Now, that's it. Um, so David calls Nathan the prophet and is like, you know what? I'm thinking of building a temple for the Ark of the Covenant. And Nathan, being a prophet, was like, okay, go ahead and do what's in your heart. So he leaves. But God calls Nathan, call David. Call David. Talk to him. Talk to him. And God now gave this whole exposition. He said, listen, I took Israel from bondage, sustained them through the wilderness, overcame many nations for their sakes, gave for their sake, gave Israel a land of their own, established them, kept their enemies away from them. And throughout all this time, I have never asked for them to build me a house. Part one. Part two. I took you, David, out of the sheepcote. I was speaking in Yoruba, which is actually sweeter to say for me. It's "Mo mú ẹ kúrò nínú ibùjẹran," where you are taking care of animals in the bush. And I brought you into a palace and I established you and I defended you and protected you from all these enemies. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but you are getting the context. I gave you a house, I gave you a name. People know your name all over the world. And I did not ask for anything. And now you are saying you want to build me a house. Oh, he said, for the rest of eternity, there will always be a king that will come out of your loins. You see, many people don't realize that this was the time God decided that the line of David is where Jesus was going to come from. Listen, in Genesis 49, when Jacob was making those prophecies, he said it was going to be Judah, that the king will come out of him. And that's why David came out of Judah 10 generations later. But beyond that, God was not established that it was going to be out of the line of David. And that's why Jesus is called the son of David. Because David woke up one morning and said, you know what? How can I be having such a good life? And I have not done anything for God. You see, a generation later, Solomon is king. Solomon makes a sacrifice of 1,000 bulls. God wakes him up in the night. I have that video here. I'm going to link it there, where I spoke about the test that Solomon passed, the exam test that Solomon passed. And what Solomon was saying is, and what happened is, God said, what do you want? He said, you have made me king over all these people. And they are too much for me. I can't handle it. Give me wisdom and knowledge. Is it an understanding heart? And that, I don't remember the words you used. So that I can rule these people well. See, some of us don't understand. See, when God would answer his Solomon, he said, you know what? Because you have done this thing, this is what you asked for. You didn't ask for riches, which 99% of us will ask for. You didn't ask for victory over your enemies, which we can't stop praying for, fall down and die, etc. The enemy from my grandmother's house, the witches and wizards that are inside the tree and inside the marine forest. You see, people who understand purpose, they don't have time. People who know what they are about, they don't have time to be looking over their shoulders at some enemy that is chasing them. They are purposeful. They are chasing what they want to achieve. It's like this story of Roger Bannister, the first man who ran the mile in under 4 minutes. He was running with the other gentleman, I don't remember his name, and it was at the Olympics. Was it the Olympics or the Commonwealth Games? I can't remember. And as he was running, the other guy had overtaken him just a little bit, and they were on the last lane, I think the last 100 meters. And it was a competition between the two of them. Everybody knew one of them was going to win. So they were just about to finish, I suppose. And the guy was like, where's Roger Bannister? And he looks over his shoulder where Bannister is, and Bannister overtook him in that 1 second. And Bannister refused to let go, to relinquish that lead until he won the gold medal. What am I trying to say? The other gentleman, I don't know his name, I'll probably try and put his name there. The other gentleman lost that race because he looked over his shoulders at what enemies were thinking, at what those who were competing with him were thinking, were doing. Focus on what is in front of you. See, what moves the hand of God is understanding the purpose of your heart. You're not here to serve yourself. You are here to serve Him. And those of us who mature to the level where we understand that I'm not here for myself, I'm here for God. Those of us are the ones that God looks at us at some point and you know what? I have established your throne forever. Those are the kind of people that, oh my God, Phineas. Is it Phineas? If I recall correctly, Numbers 25, thereabouts. Somebody brought a strange woman into the camp and was sleeping with her. And a plague entered the camp and was killing the people. Weird. This plague was killing the people, but it appeared the plague was not killing the man who brought the woman into the camp. And this grandson, if I recall correctly, of Aaron, took a javelin, a spear, and walked into the tent where that man was having sex with that woman and drove the spear through the two of them. And God said, you know what? I have established your lineage forever. You guys will always worship before me. You see, there is something that moves the hand of God. When you stand up and pursue the will of God, when you stand up and think in terms of what God is trying to achieve in your generation, when you stand up and you're not thinking so much about what you are going to get out of it, but what is going to glorify the name of God, that is what makes the difference between normal people and people whom God elevates. I'm challenging you. What have you purposed in your heart to do for God? God has given you the life that you live, the breath that you breathe, your heart that is pumping in your chest. God has given you these eyes and you can see with them, these legs, you can walk with them. So you're angry, you haven't seen the woman who wants to marry you or the man who wants to date you. So you're angry, you haven't gotten the job that you are looking for. What about everything else that God has done for you? What about the fact that you were born into a good family and you have brothers and sisters and parents who care for you? Parents who didn't divorce so that they could stay together and raise you. Parents who paid your way through university. Well, no. You are so worried about the things you don't have. No, forget about all of that. You live in a house that is made of bricks, cement, concrete, wood. And the Lord is living in a tent. The Lord is living in a tattered apartment outside your heart. Build the Lord a house with your very life. Your life is that house. Build it. Make your life into something that the Lord will be proud of, and see if the Lord will not establish you. Do it because you care about God and not so much because you care just for yourself. I'm going to stop there. I didn't want this to be long. But thank you for watching. Remember to ask a question, click on like, click on subscribe. Share this video with whomever is out there. Somebody may need to hear these words. Is there anything else? Click on subscribe. I've said all of that. Yeah. Thank you for watching. God bless you. Have a wonderful day. Thank you, Dad, for that.